What happens when a city decides an itsy bitsy bikini top is just the way to go? Today, we dive into a bizarre legal battle from San Antonio, Texas, where the fight over a few square inches of fabric set the tone for this case. This is 35 Bar and Grille, LLC versus City of San Antonio, where the core question was, does size of the fabric matter? Texas is known for a few things, like having the most space-enthusiastic people in the whole darn galaxy thanks to NASA, and for producing enough oil to slick back every mullet west of the Mississippi. Our story starts with San Antonio, its adult entertainment clubs, and the 2005 ordinance. The city didn't want nude dancing, so it created the Human Display Establishment (HDE) classification, basically a sexually oriented business. Human Display Establishment or HDEs faced tough zoning restrictions, special permits, and mandatory background checks. To avoid this, many clubs found a loophole. Instead of full nudity, their dancers wore pasties and G-strings. Technically, this meant they weren't HDEs and could operate as regular dance halls. The city wasn't happy. They said these dance halls were still causing the same negative secondary effects as sexually oriented business or SOBs, things like crime, drug sales, and prostitution in the surrounding neighborhoods. So, in 2012, San Antonio amended the ordinance, targeting the loophole. The new law redefined semi-nudity to mean failing to cover any portion of the female breast below the top of the areola. In plain language, dancers had to go from wearing pasties to wearing bikini tops to keep the clubs out of the highly regulated sexually oriented business or SOB category. The legal argument: free speech versus city power. The clubs, including 35 Bar and Grille, sued. Their argument was a classic First Amendment challenge. First, it aims to prove the following: irreparable harm, and second, lack of evidence. Irreparable harm. The new requirement would strip away their protected expressive conduct, the dance itself, which can't be fixed with just money. Lack of evidence. They argued the city failed to show that forcing a dancer to wear a slightly larger top, a bikini top instead of a pasty, would actually reduce crime. In their view, this was an unconstitutional restriction on free speech. The key precedent here was a similar Fifth Circuit case, Baby Dolls Topless Saloons, Inc. versus City of Dallas. That case established that regulating sexually oriented business or SOBs is generally allowed if the law is content neutral and targets the secondary effects, like crime, rather than the speech itself. The verdict: the court favored the city government. The ordinance was crafted in a way that it is content neutral, and that following the Dallas precedent, the city was reasonable to conclude that clubs featuring pasties pose the same secondary effects problems as other sexually oriented business or SOBs, even if they couldn't prove a bikini top specifically stops crime. In a truly colorful closing, Judge Beery made it clear he was skeptical of the law's effectiveness, calling the clubs nefarious magnets of mischief. He openly doubted whether several square inches of fabric will stanch the flow of violence. However, his hands were tied by legal precedent. The city just needed a reasonable belief that the amendment would further its interest in combating secondary effects, which is overcome crime, and the legislative record provided that. The takeaway: for the city of San Antonio, regulating the location and operation of adult businesses, even if it meant a slight restriction on the dancers' attire, was seen as a legitimate way to protect public safety and property values. The courts confirmed, when a city is concerned about crime, a few inches of fabric does matter to the law.